Welcome to Beyond the Bio. This week I'm joined by Phil Witcherley, who is Director of Economy and Innovation at the North East Combined Authority. Phil's career spans senior roles in government, from the Treasury to West Yorkshire Combined Authority, where he's led on everything from creative industries and advanced manufacturing to skills and inclusive growth. And now Phil is in the North East. But what makes Phil stand out isn't just the role that he holds, it's how visible he's become whilst doing it. In a sector where most people stay firmly behind the scenes, Phil has built a strong presence on LinkedIn, sharing insights, shaping conversations, and becoming one of the most recognisable voices in regional economic leadership. So today, we're getting into how and why he's done that, what it's unlocked, and what others in similar roles can learn from it. Welcome to the show, Phil.
Thank you very much, Sophie.
It's so good to have you here. And you have become a prolific LinkedIner, if that's a thing.
Yeah.
Was there a specific moment where you thought, I'm going to start showing up more publicly?
So, not really. The culture of the public sector is very much something where it's not as easy potentially to do that and put your head above the parapet, and that's for a host of reasons. So, whereas in a kind of private sector role, it's your job to be the brand. In the public sector, you're not the brand. The organisation you work for politicians who are out there publicly. So it's more around kind of how you can kind of explain to the world what you do, what on earth it is that a mayor or combined authority does. Because I'm not sure many people, even those that work in and around combined authorities, know what they do on a day-to-day basis, and really kind of to celebrate what we're doing and talk about what we're doing so people can engage with it. So there wasn't a moment when I started. I've been not prolific, but I've in the past, but I've started to in this role. I've started to kind of explore how I kind of talk about what I do and talk about what my organisation does and what our partners do. And it seems to have worked relatively well in terms of getting traction the more I've done it.
It definitely has. So it's been a fairly recent thing then, hasn't it? So like the last year where you've got a bit more intentional. So I'm guessing that you've gone from posting fairly sort of inconsistently to now you've got a bit of a rhythm, haven't you?
Yeah, so as you know, as you're referring to, I have a weekly Friday LinkedIn update, and I think that consistency has been really, really helpful. I get a lot of people talking to me about it. I get a lot of people trying to influence what I put on it, and I'm often always, I probably shouldn't say this if people are listening because I might get more of this, but I always like to hear from people about what they might want me to use the week to amplify, because it's definitely not about me personally. It's about the region and celebrating the North East region and talking about the opportunities in the North East region as well. So, and in the North East. So actually, that frequency has really, really helped actually people's engagement to the extent, and at the time of this recording, I'm just about to go on holiday, to the extent that I get people messaging me asking me if I'm all right when I'm on holiday, when I don't post. So I kind of have started to make it a thing to say that I'm going to be away, so don't worry about me.
I love that.
Yeah.
And it has become a thing, like Friday's post, it has become a thing. How do you put that together? Is it something that you're adding to throughout the week, or do you get to Friday morning and think, oh, I need to do my post, what's gone on, let's have a look at the calendar?
So it's become a part of my job. So until kind of towards the autumn last year, I did it. I always made sure I set it up so it was going out at 7 a.m. on Friday. And it got to the point when I was doing it at like 6 a.m. on the Friday because I'd forgot to do it. But now I intentionally kind of make sure I've got a list every week of the things I kind of am going to do, and I start kind of preparing the post. I've basically integrated it into a part of my job because it is my job to promote the North East, to celebrate the North East. So I've made that. So it's become a part of the job, but it started off being quite chaotic and just like it wasn't intentional that it was always going to be every Friday. It just kind of worked out that way because I think it became kind of a bit of a routine.
And what have been the results from you doing your regular Friday post?
It kind of picked up quite early on. So I'd say kind of last summer, and there's been so much to celebrate in the Northeast over the last year. So it's been, in a way, it's been fairly kind of easy to write, but it's kind of snowballed. So if you look at, for this audience, about kind of trying to kind of get more traction on what you do kind of online, the engagement rate has increased massively into kind of the thousands, and I regularly get 6, 7, 8,000 people engaging with it a few days after the post, whether or not, and usually around 100 or 150 people reacting to a weekly post, and that in a way is a really, really good way of me and communicating what our organisation's doing and what the North East Combined Authority is doing, but also what our partners in local authorities are doing, what businesses in the region are doing, what other wider partners like universities are doing across the region to a slightly different audience. So because of my background, I've got kind of a number of people who follow me on LinkedIn or connect me on LinkedIn are people in Westminster and in other parts of the country. So it's helped to amplify what we're doing to the extent that I often get people, probably not so much in this region saying this, but in other combined authorities reporting back, well, the North East is doing so many things. It's great to hear what the North East is doing. And obviously, I'd say that is completely true. We are doing loads of great things, and we are better than other regions, because I can say that because it's my job to say that. But actually, other regions are doing great things, but they perhaps could do with amplifying some of that a bit more as well. So I think it has been successful in that sense. Again, like the consistency, and you might come on to talk about this, the consistency is really, really important. So getting kind of a really, really consistent, you do it every week, everyone expects it, LinkedIn expects it, so it helps with the algorithm, is really, really important.
And what have you seen in terms of increase in followers since you've been consistent?
It's felt kind of exponential. So it started off with it started off quite, as I landed in the Northeast and lots of people didn't know me. I got quite a few new followers when I first arrived in the Northeast. But since I've been doing this consistent weekly posting, it goes up by several tens a week now. So
and do you find that spikes on Friday when you do your post?
I find actually it actually spikes less when I'm doing the Friday post and more when I'm doing kind of something that's not the Friday post but a separate post, depending on the topic and depending on the area it is. So if I'm doing something, for example, my role covers housing and I do something specifically on housing, it might get traction with that audience, so I might get more followers. Whereas the Friday post is quite generic, so it kind of covers everything, a bit of everything. So it's not, and I think, and if you look at the engagement on that post, on the Friday post, it's much more, it tends to be more regionally focused, whereas the ad hoc stuff tends to be more as a broader kind of sector specific focus. It's quite interesting. I've become it's quite interesting to see the trust.
You're loving the analytics.
Yeah.
Have you noticed any sort of tips and tricks around the types of posts that you're doing and what tends to perform better?
Well, you'll be very pleased to hear me say that, because I know you're a big advocate of this, that reposts just don't work, and just people listening to this just stop doing them. You see that quite a lot, particularly I guess people in the public sector, but every sector really does a repost. So
because it's the safe option.
Yes, because you don't have to put your head above the parapet. So I did an experiment a few weeks ago before I came on this to talk about this. So we were promoting taking some Northeast businesses to Climb UK. I'm sure Gordon will love the plug on this for Climb UK, which is a kind of startup connecting to investment conference that happens in Leeds every year. I tried a retweet of the corporate Northeast Combined Authority page, and I tried a separate post that I did, which was I wrote myself, had a call to action, had a picture, tried to use engaging language. The retweet had 11 kind of likes, reactions to it. The post I put up that I did myself with exactly the same content really had about 180 likes and way more views. So you could kind of see the difference between the repost and when I talk to colleagues in the North East Combined Authority and people I work with, we kind of trying to advise not to use reposts, and instead, if you're comment on things, it's better than a repost, because at least that increases the engagement and direction to that individual post.
Absolutely, I totally agree, which will be of no surprise.
Unsurprisingly, Sophie.
No surprise. How has you showing up consistently on LinkedIn changed how people engage with you in your role day to day?
I'd say, and kind of being kind of open and honest about this, there's kind of two sides to this, right? So in terms of the kind of partner audience outside the public sector, I think it's been really, really helpful to help people understand what it is the combined authority do, what it is that the wider public sector do in the region, how they can engage in that, and also how we tell the story of what the North East is doing outside the North East, albeit with a, it's kind of direct from me, so it's direct the view of kind of the person with my lens. I think what's really, really important, and I'll say this repeatedly, that it's really important to me that it's not about me, and it's not about, and I'm not just saying that. I find it's easier for me to post when I think in the mindset it's not about me. I use a phrase which you may or may not use, which is to be a LinkedIn wanker, and I think I probably am one, but I do it as part of my job to kind of promote the North East, promote what we're doing. I think sometimes that can lead, in my kind of role, you don't want to be you're not the public face of everything, and there are people in lots of roles doing lots of great things, and it's really, really important. And I've tried to do as those people that look at my LinkedIn, I try to kind of elevate people, particularly people often in the more junior roles doing things, and saying the real and give them the kind of profile as a result of that. And I think that has actually helped as well, in terms of the impression that people in more junior roles in my team and across the region have got in terms of what we do as well, because often they're the people that you need to amplify, and they're the people doing the real work as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's that amplification is just so important and massively helps. Are you finding then when you're out and about that people are referring to your posts when you meet them in real life?
Yeah, I do, and I often get that. So I'll often bump into people, even people outside the region, people I've never met before, that have said they've looked at it, and the usual
LinkedIn
question,
famous now, Phil.
and they usually ask the same question, which I always find a bit odd, which is, do you write them yourself? Mm-hmm. Which often means one of two things. It's like, do you get your comms team to write them? I'm like, no. Do you get AI to write them? And I'm like, no. And you can tell I don't get AI to write them because because I'm not like the best attention to detail kind of person, they usually got the odd spelling mistake, etc. in them. But I think having the authentic voice is really important. So people often get AI to write them. But I think for me, you can really tell when that's happened. And for me, you can really tell when a comms team's written it as well. So, but I think the whole appeal of what I'm trying to do is just use my own. Yeah, I write them myself. It's my own.
And
my
how
own
long
writing.
does it take you to write one of those posts?
So it depends. So sometimes very quick, and there's a bit of a formula to doing them, and it's got easier. It usually takes longer when you try and do them on a train or something, and the internet crashes or LinkedIn crashes, and you write a post and you lose the post, and we've all had that frustration. But I'd say the Friday post takes anything between 15 minutes and an hour to do, depending on how much content's in there, how much I do. Do you write it in your notes
app so you can just copy and paste it?
I've started to write it actually in LinkedIn. Just as a scheduled.
Oh, okay.
Send.
I'm just thinking about your.
So if I post on a Tuesday with half a post, I have to schedule send off.
So one of the things that you do really well, Phil, is you don't just post. Obviously, you're doing that really, really well, but you also use LinkedIn to reach out to people and to start other conversations. And that is actually how we became connected in the first place. Tell us about how you've done that.
So when I landed in the post, or when I knew I was coming to the North East to do this role, I wanted to make sure that I was speaking to as many voices as possible to understand what was going on. And I didn't want to go to just the usual suspects that, when you go to a job, you say, who are the top 50 people I should speak to. I wanted to reach out to a few people of my own to get a perspective of what was going on in the Northeast. And I reached out to your profile because it was visible profile, as you know very well, which is great. And I also reached out to a number of other people who were founders in the region, particularly a bunch of different sectors, female founders, and I wanted to hear their kind of perspective. So I reached out to a few, for example, when we wanted to look at female founders and what female founders' perception was, because that's an area which I knew was an area where we needed to do more as a combined authority, even before starting. So I reached out to you and a few other female founders, and when I reached out, you were the only one that replied, and then we ended up having a conversation, which has then led to kind of us doing quite a bit of work together.
Yeah, I think that is such an interesting example, and I suspect that any other founders that you reached out to probably regret that, because they'll have seen the stuff that we've done. It's been so visible. How could you not see it?
Yeah.
Which has been great and been amplified in your Friday post. So, yeah, I think that's a great lesson around check your DMs, keep on top of them, and reply to things that are useful.
Yeah.
With LinkedIn, it's not just about posting content. So the fact that we got to know each other because you got in touch shows a few things. It shows that I'm being visible on LinkedIn, therefore I've popped up somewhere in your feed as someone that you should connect with. And then, it's led to all sorts of different things that we've been able to work on together, which is awesome. And then what you just said there around responding to comments or responding to messages, like this is all really important in terms of building relationships that then go on to create cool things in the region. So I think you're a great role model for LinkedIn stuff. Have you ever had to hold back from posting something? Because I'm conscious that when you post, you do very much amplify what's going on in the region. So rather than it be anything that's your thoughts that could be perceived as potentially controversial, you're more factual and reporting on great things that are happening. Is there ever a point where you want to kind of, maybe it is a response to those comments where you want to go all in? Like, do you have to hold yourself back at any point?
So I think on LinkedIn I'm pretty controlled. It is a completely public facing forum, and like pretty much everybody that can have an influence in my career either follows that I'm already connected to or I might be connected to. So I'm pretty careful about that kind of stuff. I'm also because I work in the political world, but I'm not a politician. I'm fairly restricted about kind of what having kind of over political opinions about anything. So, I've been doing that for a long time. People in my sector might see as a barrier to being more vocal. In the way I've done it, I don't feel that's the case in terms of what I'm saying.
What would you say then to other senior leaders in the public sector who are kind of observing your success and the way that you're going about things and probably thinking maybe they should look at doing it? What advice would you give to them?
So the best way of doing it, I think why I feel it's worked well for me, and it's up to others to judge whether it has or not, is because I've just stayed true to kind of, I've done it how I think I should do it. So I haven't done it in anybody else's way. I've just forged through, like, this is my version of it. I quite enjoy being creative. I quite enjoy kind of being a bit playful in it, but not, as you've observed in previous questions, not too over the line in terms of what I do. Different people will do different things. I also observe some great role models in public service roles that are quite good at this. Mm-hmm. So if you look kind of a couple of examples outside the region, so you've got somebody like Ed Whiting, who's the Chief Executive of Leeds Council. He's quite good. He's quite community focused. So he goes across kind of Leeds and talks about kind of different communities he's met with pictures, and very, very engaging. And the one that I see is kind of the gold standard, the one I really kind of like, really, really like, although it has a lot of kind of video content, like here in action,
good.
Is Alex Mann, who used to run Channel 4 and now has gone into a different role. She's very, very engaging, and she does it almost like it feels like when she was in Channel 4, it was almost like a piece of staff engagement. She was speaking to her own team a lot, and I quite like that. And the reason why I think I like both of them as kind of, I guess, role models is they're quite authentic in style. They're not like like me. They're like, this is what I want to do for others, which feels like a good role model to have.
Okay. So if someone watching or listening in your kind of space hasn't done anything and they're just a lurker watching everything unfold and they want to start building their presence tomorrow, what's the first thing that they should do?
I think if you want to do it, just do it. But that's the way I'm wired. I think make sure your profile's right.
Yep.
So get a picture, have a kind of tagline that isn't corporate director.
I love
Darkshire,
yours. Tell us what yours is.
Champion. I can't say the word. Championing the Northeast.
Lost a bit of impact there.
Championing the Northeast. I can write it easier than I can say it.
I love that. That is such a brilliant strapline.
Yeah.
It's so simple, but it completely sums up what you do with your content.
Yeah.
Like, it's great. I think that's really good. So someone should just get going. They
Yeah.
should optimize their profile, have a snappy headline.
Yeah.
Because no one cares what your job title is. We can find that information further down.
Literally nobody cares. And I think the thing about LinkedIn is, like, some of the jokes about LinkedIn is people have made up job titles. And what's a director in one place might be like someone that makes the tea in another place. So I think no one cares about job titles. Just say what you do or say what you want to be known for.
That's it.
Yeah.
And that's what you want to be known for. And I think where that then comes into its own is if you're commenting on someone else's post, that's the line they see. They're not bothered about the job title. They're looking, champion in the Northeast, I wonder what that is. Click through and they see your Brilliant Friday post and then they're sold, aren't they? So that's really good. Okay, so looking ahead, do you think this kind of visibility that you've now got will become expected for leaders in your space?
Well, I certainly see it as part of my job. I think it's not for me to say how other people do it. Other people communicate or get stuff done in a different way. I think fundamentally my job is about partnership. So I think it's almost like a shortcut to working in partnership with others. Whether it's expected or not, I think, this will evolve again. So you've got to keep innovating. So what is now using social media instead of, 4 years ago, pre-COVID, senior leaders would have just relied on their comms team. A lot of senior leaders do rely on their comms teams. The comms teams are brilliant, the reactive comms. For proactive comms, I think kind of authentic brands, particularly on social media, really help. But who knows where it's going to evolve? It'll probably evolve further. I probably have to do video content, even though I don't like
it. It's different, isn't it? Because when you said earlier about how you reposted something about climb, and or potentially you've probably reposted stuff in the past before I told you not to, like the Combined Authority post, whereas that the posts that you do as an individual are always going to get more engagement. So yes, there's a place for comms team doing things for an organisation, but it's never going to have the impact or be able to bring it to life in the way that an actual individual can.
So I think it's just, our comms team are new, so they're evolving alongside that, which is really, really helpful, and they do a lot of content which kind of I do use. And I think we have to work with both. So you have to have the corporate comms and the individual comms, and then you have to decide, who are your voices and how you use different voices as an organisation for different reasons.
Phil, it's been really interesting talking to you about your LinkedIn journey. If anyone watching or listening hasn't come across you before, I'm going to guess LinkedIn's the best place for them to find you.
Particularly at 7 a.m. on a Friday morning.
We will pop a link to Phil's LinkedIn in the show notes to make it super easy for you to connect. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening. If you're serious about growing your profile, take our free profile assessment quiz to see where you're at right now and get hints and tips on how to improve your score. You'll find the link to the quiz in the show notes. If you've enjoyed the episode, it would be mint if you'd subscribe, like, and leave a review. See you next Monday.